Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all can hear me well. So we are live from Château du Moulin-à-Vent. Excellent. I can see so far that the sound and the video is working. So it seems like good. Excellent. Welcome everyone. It's 4 p.m. in France, in Moulin-à-Vent actually, and I am very glad to have you all in my Wilson Daniels live video. I took the account of Wilson Daniels and I thank them for that. Of course, this time is a little bit difficult for all of us. We are like all quarantined. The good thing is that we can enjoy wines, empty the cellar a little bit, and that's not so bad. So, yeah, let me first introduce myself to you all. So my name is Edouard. I'm part of the family of Château du Moulin-à-Vent. And today I will be able to talk to you about the history of Moulin-à-Vent, the typicity of the Moulin-à-Vent AOC, and also the specificity also of our domain, Château du Moulin-à-Vent, which has been in here for a pretty long time. So we are very lucky today because the weather is just perfect. I will bring you out in a short time, see some vineyard, and yeah, tasting the wine as well, so that I can talk a little bit about the 17 vintage, which actually just landed in the US. So that's a very exciting vintage. I will be able to talk to you. I thank you, all of you, also for all your comments. I can't read all of them, but I really appreciate your support. This is actually pretty much my first live, so your support is very welcome. Thank you very much to all of you. Okay, so we are actually here in the chateau. So first of all, just a few first details. Moulin-à-Vent is one of the 10 cru Beaujolais. Here we are talking about granitic soils. We are talking about Gamay, that's Gamazing, 100% Gamay actually. And we are also talking about Moulin-à-Vent, which is one of the northernmost cru of the Beaujolais, and also the most notorious for producing complex, structured wines for this Gamay. And hopefully I will be able to explain you why this Moulin-à-Vent appellation and why Château du Moulin-à-Vent is so unique in the Beaujolais area. So first of all, let me just show you where we are in France, because it's maybe not obvious for anyone. If I can switch my camera, here we are. So it's a very simple map showing you France, of course, and the different vineyards. So you can see in blue the location of Beaujolais, with Burgundy being just north of us and Rhône being just south. So we are really in the same line with Burgundy and Rhône, into the middle of these two. And the climate here in Moulin-à-Vent is actually pretty much intermediate with the one of the Rhône and Burgundy. And that is also why we use Gamay in Beaujolais and not Syrah or Pinot Noir, because the maturity of Gamay is very well adapted to this climate. Plus, of course, the type of soils that we have here and that I will be able to talk later. But first of all, this is our location, Beaujolais, and Moulin-à-Vent is the very, very north of it. So we are actually touching Burgundy, even if we are granitic and Burgundy is mostly limestone and clay. That's the first point. As I told you, the first thing I want to talk to you is the history. And the history of Moulin-à-Vent is very rich. Actually, just like for the Rhône and the Burgundy, the first vines being planted in Moulin-à-Vent, that was around the 2nd or 3rd century after Christ, when the Romans were building these roads and planting different types of culture on that side or this side of the road, so fruits, vegetables, and actually grapes, vines. So this is how it came 2 millennials ago. So, you know, Moulin-à-Vent is, the translation of Moulin-à-Vent is windmill, and we still have this windmill dating back to the 15th century. But the village we are depending on is called today Romanèche-Torin. And the former name of this village was Romanesca, which means Little Rome. So you can imagine that 2 millennials ago, that this Romanesca was kind of a small Roman village on this road going from Marsiglia to the North Sea. And so Romanesca was part of the villages along this road. That's the very first thing, vines being here for a long, long time. After the first sign of history that we have in Moulin-à-Vent is actually in the 17th century. And this is when the wines from Moulin-à-Vent really started to get their fame. So actually the king, Louis XIV, Le Roi Soleil, you surely know him, was so famous in France. He agreed the wines from Les Torrents. At that time, we are not talking about Moulin-à-Vent, but as Les Torrents, which is the best section of this Moulin-à-Vent appellation. And the wines from Les Torrents got the agreement of the Roi Louis XIV. So this is really the beginning of the fame. And after that, most of the signs we have of this Moulin-à-Vent AOC and the history of Moulin-à-Vent is dating back of the 19th century. And here, this is very interesting. Actually, probably all of you know the classification for Bordeaux 1855. Actually, I'm not sure you know that the same type of classification had been made in 1869 for the lieux-dits of Beaujolais. So the lieux-dits in Moulin-à-Vent are 150 years old, and this is really the beginning of the valorization of the lieux-dits and the valorization of the Moulin-à-Vent AOC globally. In 1869, for this classification, Mr. Boutker, who was the person in charge of this classification, named 8 lieux-dits of Moulin-à-Vent as première classe, so the best class you can imagine. And that was the richest part of Beaujolais being classified as première classe. So for the last 150 years, Moulin-à-Vent has been recognized as the best place to grow gamay on these granitic soils, and I think it's very important. In the following of that, the place of Les Torrents has been granted as Grand Cru. And actually, it's very, very funny to see that our village, Romanèche, has become Romanèche-Torin. So Les Torrents, once more, is this place of vines which was previously, which became later Moulin-à-Vent. But Romanèche became Romanèche-Torin exactly the same way that Chambolle, Vaune, or Puligny became Chambolle-Musigny, Gevrey-Chambertin, or Puligny-Morachet by the addition of the Grand Cru of the village to the name of the village to promote the quality of the wines produced there. So you have to imagine that end of the 19th century, and actually it kept this reputation kept till the mid-60s or mid-70s, in 1970s in France. Moulin-à-Vent has got this reputation of Grand Cru. So I can show you some pictures. I will turn my camera once more. But my first image I can show you is this old label of Château du Moulin-à-Vent, where you can see this Grand Cru Classé. It's a 61 vintage, but we have a newer vintage which also show this Grand Cru Classé mention. A very old postcard showing, so as you can see, Les Torrents rather than Moulin-à-Vent. Les Torrents was the place for the wine. Moulin-à-Vent was the building. And once more, this Grand Cru. And finally, an old postcard once more, with the look of the Château des Torrents. It was called Château des Torrents and not Château du Moulin-à-Vent, but this is still the same house prior to the creation of Moulin-à-Vent AOC in 1936. And these postcards lead me to my next and last point for history is the creation of the Moulin-à-Vent AOC. Actually, you maybe don't know that prior to the AOC settlement in 1936, there was the settlement of AO, so appellation d'origine, and Moulin-à-Vent was actually the very first AO to be created in all France. So that shows also the importance of Moulin-à-Vent or Les Torrents section for the administration and for the people here, the wine lovers here in France at this time. So that's the history of Moulin-à-Vent being this Grand Cru for actually all his history except for the last 30 years, with the mass production and bad production being made in Beaujolais. You all know since the 70s, 80s, the notoriety of Cru Beaujolais have sunk pretty much. And for, I would say, the last 10 years, the reputation of the Cru are coming back. And we definitely hope to be a part of this coming back and produce fine wines, wines that are able to age, of course. This is clearly one of the specificity of Moulin-à-Vent. Let's go to the vineyard, see the soils, so that I can speak a little bit about the typicity of Moulin-à-Vent as an AOC, and we'll come back here for tasting the wines. So that was actually the dining room of the chateau. We will come back later. We are inside the chateau now. So as I told you, it's a very beautiful day today, a little windy. That's also part of the specificity of Moulin-à-Vent. The windmill is not here by a hazard, a little windy, but very beautiful weather. As you can see also the flowers are already here. This magnolia has started giving flowers for a few days already. The cherry trees are also in flower, so that's nice, but that also show the vintage so far is pretty early. And so you have, let me show you, turning my camera. So our house, maybe you can recognize it in comparison with the postcard I showed you. Here we are. Moulin-à-Vent, yee! So let's go in the closest vineyard that we have, which is one of the most famous, I would say, lieux-dits of Moulin-à-Vent, which is called, very simply, Le Moulin-à-Vent. So I will turn my camera once more so that you can appreciate better. So yeah, it's pretty simple to announce now that in front of you you have this beautiful windmill dating back of the 15th century, and it's classified by the French administration as a Monument Historique de France. So this is this building who gave the name to the AOC, and so the chateau, which is 200 meters behind. Sorry for the trees, just right here. So we are very close to the windmill, and this windmill is very in the center of the AOC Moulin-à-Vent. So, talking about the specificity of Moulin-à-Vent as an appellation, first of all, it's very simple for me to talk about the winds, of course. So the winds, they blow very regularly, and they have this impact of drying, concentrating the berries of gamay, and so producing smaller berries than what you will have on a normal atmosphere without wind. So that participates in the concentration of the gamay of Moulin-à-Vent. Also, this vineyard, which is called Clos de Londres, is very representative of what we do in the chateau. So working the soil, as you can see, it's organically driven viticulture, very, very dense vineyard, so little bit more than 10,000 vines that we have here per hectare. And also very old vines. Here, this clos was planted in the beginning of the 60s, so it's a little bit more than 50 years old vineyards. And I was talking about the specificity of Moulin-à-Vent with the wind, which enables to concentrate the berries of gamay. Something which is also very important to understand is that here the soils of Moulin-à-Vent are very, very old, 300 millions of years of erosion to have this sand. As you can see, it's very, very, very sandy. So very, very dry, very, very poor and porous type of soil, which makes constraint to the gamay. So the gamay here needs to give a lot of energy to produce very small crop, basically. So in Moulin-à-Vent, the yield is limited to 52 hectoliters per hectare. And in the Château du Moulin-à-Vent, we produce around 25 to 30 hectoliters per hectare. So about half of what is authorized to preserve, to have the good quality. And with these old vines, it's what we have naturally. So I talk about these sands, about these winds, which are very, very important to understand the typicity of Moulin-à-Vent and why the berries of Moulin-à-Vent are so small, concentrated, and give more structured wines. The two elements which are very important here in Moulin-à-Vent are granite, of course, that I will try to show you, and silica. So granite is actually this type of rock. So it's a red-colored rock because it's very rich in iron oxide. So this is the main component of Moulin-à-Vent, made onto sand, as I showed you before. And this granite is combined with, I have a very nice example here, with silica. So very white and shiny type of rock, which when it is eroded as a sand, gives very small shiny crystals very small and shiny crystals. And these sands, this granite rich in oxides and these crystals make very good conditions for maturation. So once more the sand are very porous for the vines, and the silica gives naturally, because it's so shiny, it reflects both light and heat, and gives a preferable condition for the maturity of the gamay. So yeah, that's the three main things that makes Moulin-à-Vent so specific: the winds, the sands, and the presence of these oxides and silica, which concentrate, dry, produce small berries, and after these small berries gives more structured and complex wines. Also, something which is very important to have in mind is that in Moulin-à-Vent, the AOC is 600 hectares big. So we are really, as I said, here in the center of the appellation. And out of these 600 hectares, you have more than 71 lieux-dits. So diversity in Moulin-à-Vent is huge. Diversity of terroir is huge. And this diversity also explains why in Moulin-à-Vent we don't use carbonic maceration. Because historically, traditionally, vintners of Moulin-à-Vent have preferred to show the diversity of this terroir using a more traditional winemaking, which is very much used in Burgundy to show the diversity of terroir up north, rather than use a carbonic maceration, which, as you know, has more the potential to show the primary aromas of gamay, which are very fruity. This is a very fruity variety. yeah, creating wines which are very different. So the soils of Moulin-à-Vent and the diversity of the appellation explains why in Moulin-à-Vent we don't use carbonic maceration, while the rest of the appellation use it much more, actually. So that's also very important to have it in mind. So I give you a very last view of our Clos de Londres on the lieu-dit of Le Moulin-à-Vent. So yeah, once more with these very old vines of Gamay, the soils and the vegetation is very, I did not talk about that, but it's very also early, this vintage. So you can see, I don't think I can zoom too much, but you can see here on this vine, the very first leaf of this Gamay going out. So yeah, it's very early. Hopefully we will not have more frost. We had it 4 days ago, sorry. 4 days ago we had a little episode of frost, which was not so terrible for us, but hopefully we won't have it more. So yeah, also going back to the house, tasting the wines, I can also show you in the background these very old mounds. So these mounds, which are maybe 500, not even 500 meters distance from us, these are the origin of the granitic sand that I showed you before. So these granitic mounds are the very last mountain of the Massif Central, the volcanic central part of France. And so these mountains are very, about 550 meters, and with millions, hundreds of millions of years of erosion, have given us this granitic sand that I showed you in the Clos. I can also mention, it's always nice to mention you the bees. We have these beautiful boxes producing great bees. I can also do vertical of honey, actually. So when next time you come to Château du Moulin-à-Vent, you have the vertical of wine and the vertical of honey. That's a nice compliment. Okay, let's go back in the house now. Okay, here I am, back in the dining room. Oh yeah, before going to the taste, I can show you the range of wine that we produce. So in Château du Moulin-à-Vent, we produce about 8,000 cases a year for 30 hectares of vineyards. So once more, the yield here is super low. And we have these 7 wines, not between 5 to 7. I showed the 7 so that you have a full view of what we produce. 2 first cuvées, the Couvent des Torrents, which is with the Château du Moulin-à-Vent, a blend of different lieux-dits. Couvent des Torrents is sourced from more clayous terroir, which gives a little bit more fruity, obvious, immediate style for the wine. The Chateau, which is definitely our emblem, sourced on much more granitic terroir. Still a blend of different lieux-dits, but yeah, much more granitic, much more, how to say, mineral style of wine, I would say, and structured. Then we have these 3 single vineyards, so Vineyard, Chantecourt, and La Rochelle. These 3 are supposed to be produced every vintage, except when Mother Nature is not with us. And finally, 2 very small cuvées, Les Grands Savarins and Clos de Londres. So Les Grands Savarins is coming from a lieu-dit called Les Caves. It has been produced in 2014. It has been exclusively sold in the US, actually, in California, to the restaurant Saison and Angler for by the glass pouring, so that's not so bad. And the Clos de Londres, which is so we just visited another monopole cuvée, less than 2,000 bottles production for these two, while the single vineyard are about 5 to 7,000, and these two about 2,000 cases for these two as well. So let me find the wines now. So, dear follower, I've brought you Château du Moulin-à-Vent 2017 and the only single vineyard we were able to produce on this 17 vintage, le Champ de Cour. Let's taste that. So I'm checking in the same time if I have some question from you, because I haven't been so much on your commentar. I saw a lot of them, but sorry if I could not make it when I was explaining you the history and the Moulin-à-Vent AOC. I need to oil that gate. Yeah, that's right, Royal Tokai. Thank you for the advice. We'll do that this weekend. So, starting with the Château du Moulin-à-Vent 2017. This is our most emblematic cuvée, mostly sourced on a granitic part of Moulin-à-Vent, blend of different lieux-dits, mostly three: Les Torrents, Le Moulin-à-Vent, and Les Caves, which is not the worst, clearly. 2017, a very specific vintage. Actually, we lost 2/3 of the crop because of hail. So this is a very, very limited vintage. Château du Moulin-à-Vent, we shall have made less than 1,000 cases production. And this is, I really like this vintage, 17, because it's, normally we will taste it actually, but very, very delicate, fruity, floral style of vintage. So yeah, the color is, it's a much redder, much more red. I don't know how to say redder or more red. Tell me on the commenter, please. Help me. Much more red color than what we have. Normally we have a little darker, more violet, because of ale and the fruit, which was a little bit more damaged than usual. We have a color which has a more red color. In the nose, it's also very, very red fruit oriented. So it smells like strawberry, it smells like menthol. It's very, very fresh, I think, which I like so much. Very, very fruity as well. Very immediate nose, I would say, with this very obvious red fruit strawberry nose. And in mouth, very nice power, pretty linear, style of vintage also. Good acidity, very, very granitic influenced, I would say, with a lot of, how to say, gourmand. I don't know if you know what I mean, but very, very salivating, mouth-watering type of structure. So very, very, I think, appealing for food, actually. And what's great with this vintage is that you open the bottle and boom, you have it. You have the structure, you have the linearity, as I said, but very salivating, granitic type of matter, which makes the wine very identical to the granite of Moulin-à-Vent, and also very pleasant, I would say. So when you have in mind vintage like 15, I think Wilson Daniels has some 15 of Claude Lond noticeably now in stock, and this is great for aging at least, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years of aging. I would guess this 17 will have less aging potential, probably 10 to 15 years, but now it's just a bomb. So let me go on the Champ de Cours now. So Champ de Cours, the label is here. Normally we produce about 6,000 bottles. We have done 1,400 this vintage, once more because of ale. So that was a very serious one. Actually, for all of you, you can follow me on my Instagram account, Chateau Du Moulin-à-Vent, and you will see, if you scroll down on my Instagram account, you can see the video of the ale in 2017, which is pretty showing what it actually happened to us. So Champ de Cours, one of the 3 single vineyards that we produce normally every vintage. In 17, this is the only single vineyard. We did not produce Veria and Rochelle. And Le Champ de Cours, the specificity of this lieu-dit, so one lieu-dit among 71 once more. Huh? So this is only the beginning of the going deep inside Moulin-à-Vent. The specificity of Champ de Cours is that we are at the very, very beginning of the presence of clay. So it's very granitic, but a little bit of clay, the argilization, the fact that the granite with erosion releases some clays and that this clay stays in depth, is actually happening here in Le Champ de Cours. And so this is a terroir which, because it's a little bit lower in altitude, is more hidden from the winds, so a fresher environment, I would say. And because of this presence of clay, brings more tension, more minerality, more this clay orientation, so a more straightforward type of wine. Champ de Cours 2017. There is a little, on the nose, in comparison with the Chateau, there is a little bit more complexity, I think. Little bit more tobacco, mushroom, a little bit earthiness, I would say, on the nose, which gives the idea of a little more complex wine. This is also, that smells also very much flint, you know, so this humid rocks, you know, flinty, and graphite also. That is very, very, I think, built very, very linear, just like the Champ de Cours normally shows. Very nice skeleton, very nice straightness. Still on the red fruit, still on the, as I said, a little bit more earthiness, a little bit less menthol aromas than the Chateau. But this linearity, we definitely have it in this Champ de Cours 2017. So guys, I hope you have some Chateau du Moulin-à-Vent to share with me. If not, enjoy the bottle of wine that you have. I just want to show you also the geological map of Moulin-à-Vent so that I can, so that you can see the organization of the Moulin-à-Vent AOC. So let me just turn my camera once more. So I showed you the location of Beaujolais in two wall France between Burgundy and Rhône. And at the very north limit of Beaujolais, you have the Moulin-à-Vent here. So Moulin-à-Vent, so actually the chateau is here, the windmill is there. The lower part of the appellation is here at 180 meters, and the highest, it's not easy to make it with the same hand, I can promise you. And the western limit is actually, you know, the granitic mounts I showed you prior, where here we are at 450 meters. And so you have this road here, which goes up and up and up till the windmill and the chateau. So more granitic source on the red color and more clay, enfin, still granitic, but a good presence of clay on the gray color. And Le Champ de Cours is this one. So just at the very beginning of the presence of clay, at the very close to the windmill, at the foot of the hill where stands the windmill. And this is where we source our Champ de Cours, while the chateau is more sourced from this lieu-dit here, so on more granitic soils, as I said. So yeah, I think I'm pretty much done for today. I hope it was clear. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned for sure. If you have any question now, I could actually take it. I just scroll my commenter. But yeah, feel free to follow me on Château du Moulin-à-Vent Instagram page. If you have any question, I'm more than happy to help. Of course, I thank the Wilson Daniels team for giving me this opportunity. I thank all of you for being here today. I really appreciate this exercise, even if sometimes it's a little bit technical with these maps, etc. The gesture, it's not easy. But I hope to see you soon in Moulin-à-Vent, of course. You're welcome here, and stay safe. Keep drinking wine, keep drinking good wines, and enjoy life. Ciao, and big amazing, of course.